Hi, I'm Ztarli, and in this video I'll be testing out the Infinite Painter app for Android. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my Artflow app, but there's just some things it doesn't quite do. I know it very well, so I have a lot of control over the things you can do in it, but it's not as free or as realistic as some other apps can be, and I wanted something to draw like cute watercolored or color penciled quick pictures in that was easy to use. I did try out a few different apps, including Clip Studio, but I just wanted a very simple setup, so I settled for Infinite Painter, as it does have this very minimal setup, but still has a lot of things you can do within it. So this is my first full picture I'm drawing in Infinite Painter. I decided to draw my Animal Crossing character, which I've actually never drawn completely before. Despite having played the game for over 1,000 hours, I did start a drawing of this a while ago but never finished it. I just find like when I draw the characters, they kind of look a bit odd because the character designs are a little bit strange, especially in the face. But I thought this would be a good thing to try out, especially since I wanted a cutesy sort of real media style picture. So I started with using the pencils, and the pencils in this are very realistic, down to the fact that they can get smudgy. I don't actually know what causes the smudginess that you can see in the lower left there on the leg. I'm not sure if maybe I brushed it with my palm or something and it registers that. I'm not sure. I found it a little frustrating that there was this smudginess that would just occur and I didn't know how to stop it from happening. In real life, I'd just be more careful, but I'm not quite sure what's causing the pencils to smudge like this, though it does make it look realistic. It is something in real life I would try to avoid. I found the select stuff to be pretty easy to use. It's just a tiny bit more annoying than using Artflow. Artflow, when you have the select tool selected, when you clicked OK on it, it's still selected, so you can continue to select other things. In this, I found that it goes back to the original tool you were using, which I guess in some cases is good, but most of the time I'm not finished selecting and moving things around, so I actually still want the select tool to be selected. So that was a little frustrating, I found as well. Now I'm using the pen tools, and this does have a lazy or stabilizer option, and I found it nice that it actually had a full slide bar here, as when I use Artflow, it sort of does it in steps, and there's only 6 steps. So you could quite easily sort of adjust how much stabilization you want in your line art, and how much you want it to be smoothed out and that kind of thing. This paintbrush, this marker I'm using at the moment, I think it's just called the manga marker, and I found it very cute. It just has sort of round edges to it, and it was very easy to use. All the pens in this program are actually quite nice. I just found that I wanted them to taper just a little bit more, or be influenced by my pen pressure a tiny bit more than what they currently are, as I get a lot of sort of sensitivity with the pen pressure in the other program I use, Artflow, and I would have liked the pens in this to have reacted a bit more if I pressed harder or lighter, but it might just be a setting thing that I haven't found, and maybe I'll be able to adjust it later. Now I'm done with the liner, it's time to do the flat color. Now I can't really do the thing I normally do, which is select the area and then invert it and then just color dump in that selected area, because the line art has gaps all over it. So I thought I'd try this fill select thing you can do, which is the kind of thing my husband would really love. He likes just selecting and having it fill as he selected it. I found it very easy to use. I don't know why it's kind of semi-transparent, as I did have the transparency set like to 100 or opacity, so I'm not sure why it ended up like this. So to fix it, I just duplicated the layer like a bunch of times and merged them together, so I ended back with a solid color. This program has clipping layers, lock layers, masks, everything that Artflow does, and similar things you would expect to find in programs like Photoshop. So that's always a plus. It makes things a lot easier to use. So you can see I'm using a clipping layer above my skin colored flat layer, and now I'm just experimenting with different brushes. So I'm using the marker brush here, and I do have my own Copic markers, so I was interested to see how much they behaved like real markers, and they do, to the most effect, behave like real markers. They don't bleed quite as much, but the blend brush, the blending pen worked quite well, and I found it even worked if I used other pens or brushes, like just adding some white paint here and then using the blend brush. It still behaved in the same way, which I found quite good, as it's just another way to smudge stuff in, but have it sort of more randomized in how it smudges. So I found it quite easy to make this galaxy jumper, which I really wish I owned one in real life. I know they're not that hard to find, but I would have to order it online, and ordering stuff online sometimes can be quite expensive with postage in Australia, so I just don't own one at the moment, even though I love them a lot. I was super lazy with the hair, just 2 layers of marker coloring here, and then I just used the marker blend brush. Works quite well. I think it looks pretty much like marker. Some of it looks a bit generated, but I think overall it looks quite effective. I think all the brushes and paints and stuff, you can get quite realistic looking traditional art in here. The biggest flaw with this picture at the moment is actually the line art looks I used a stabilizing tool for it, and it's just a round edged brush with no tapering, so it does look very computer generated or computer drawn, which is not quite the look I was going for, but I wasn't quite sure how to edit the line art to make it look more like I'd used a real pen or a real marker to draw, so it kind of just ends up like this. But in the second picture I do in this video, I do a similar thing. I use a very solid pen, and then later on I realize I made the same mistake I did with my first picture, but I do find a way to blend it in and make it look more a part of the picture rather than I have actually done what I've done, which is draw it on a digital platform. This is pretty much it. This is my Animal Crossing character, how they look most of the time. I generally keep them the same. They have a few different outfits, but I don't change them very much, as opposed to my husband that changes everything about his Animal Crossing character every 5 seconds. So I don't know how he'll ever draw a picture of his character, because it never looks the same. But I do plan on forcing him to do so. So my overall thoughts on this at this stage were pretty good. I thought it was very easy to use, very simple and quick. This picture took me 40 minutes, which is very fast. It was much quicker to sort of get the overall feel I was looking for than in Artflow, as Artflow doesn't really, it has watercolor brushes, but they don't really behave the way watercolor brushes actually do. So I thought it needs more exploring, but I was happy with how things were going. So now we're moving on to the second picture I did as experimenting in this program. And this is actually some Paleo Pines fan art. Now, the whole reason I drew the Animal Crossing character is because I've been playing Animal Crossing again recently, mostly because of withdrawal symptoms from Paleo Pines. So Paleo Pines is a game that's coming out in September. You can play the demo on Steam at the moment, but you can only play it for 14 in-game days or until you break open a path, and then it stops. And it's so adorable. This game is so cute. I can't express how much joy these little dinosaurs give me. So I have been meaning to draw fan art for this for a long time, and I finally got round to it today. Now I'm just loading in some screenshots I took for reference picture for this, and this program has a neat feature in which you can pin reference pictures to your page. Where in Artflow, I actually just put them in as extra layers. This is this own little like reference picture tab, which is really cool. You can turn on different reference pictures and move them around independent of your layers. So I thought that was really neat and definitely a very handy feature to have, as I quite often use reference pictures and I do love being able to move them around freely without having to worry about them covering up things on the page. So once again, I start with the pencil. I tried a different pencil this time, a 2B pencil, but I found it very difficult to get a fine edge on it. So I ended up switching to a HB pencil, which is what I would normally use in real life. But then I found it was a bit too smudgy again. So then I changed back to the mechanical pencil, which is what I end up using for most of the sketch. But again, like with the original picture, I did find that sometimes it would go smudgy and I didn't know why. I guess it might just be a random occurrence to make it look more realistic, but you can see here this is very smudgy in this corner, and no matter what I did, it remained smudgy even when I drew back over it. So I don't know, I wonder if there's a feature in here somewhere I can edit that and stop it from doing it, because I did find it very frustrating. It's not so bad if you're just doing a sketch, but if I was actually coloring this picture with the color pencils or something like that, I would find that very annoying. So I hope there is a feature in there where you can turn off this smudgy look to the pencils. So I decided to just draw a few of the dinosaurs I had in my playthroughs. I did actually play this demo 3 times in full and I got super lucky twice. Apparently the black dinosaurs and white dinosaurs are a 1 in 1,000 occurrence, but on my second playthrough I got a black Gallimimus, and on my third playthrough I actually got a black Coelophysis, and I really love the Coelophysis, they're so cute. So I'm actually considering buying the game on PC, which I wasn't going to do, just so I can keep my black Coelophysis, but I was planning to get this game on Switch because I do feel like it suits a handheld console better, and I did find it a bit hard to look at the graphics on such a big screen. I actually ended up pushing my screen a bit further away as I found it starting to hurt my eyes, so I'm not sure. Maybe I'll just get this on Switch and then try my luck at getting randomly black dinosaurs again, but I really love the black Coelophysis, it's so cute. So I'll be drawing just the head of the black Coelophysis here, and we've got a Cory, 2 Coelophysis, and that's a Parasaurolophus Lucky, which is their mascot and your starting dinosaur for the game. I actually end up using exactly the same pen I did originally, despite complaining that it didn't have a very tapered edge last time. I found this time it did have a little bit more of a taper to it, but I can see now watching the playback, I think the taper is being removed by my stabilization. There's definitely less taper the more I use the lazy brush. So I do tone it back a little bit so I have a bit more control over how tapered it ends up. But for the most part, it's a very consistent line that mostly has a round finish to it. But I wanted this really cutesy sort of style, so I thought it was okay. As you see later on, I found that to be a problem because the style I decided to paint it in was a sort of very realistic looking sort of soft style, and the line art didn't really suit it anymore, but I do find a solution to that later on. So this time round I decided to try out the watercolor brushes. Now I'm not very good at using watercolor in real life, so I found it hard to sort of predict or understand how I should use these brushes because I have a limited understanding of how to use watercolor in real life. I did still find it fun to use, and I sort of learned along the way and tried to sort of make it look more sort of watered in or like real watercolor. I don't know. I just sort of experimented with it and I did find it very fun, and I was very happy with how it looked in the end. It looked very soft and sort of painted, which is what I was going for. So you'll just see me using various different watercolor brushes. Every now and then I'll switch to a different brush because I realized that you can't watercolor white. So I've had to return to like a white paintbrush or pen or something to add white back in, and then I'll go back over it with a watercolor brush to smudge it back in. I was very messy with this painting, so you'll see I go completely outside the lines, but with digital media that doesn't matter because I can just bring up my eraser and erase back towards the lines so it looks okay. And I didn't want it to be too neat anyway. I wanted it to look slightly messy, just not quite as messy as I made it. So I was very happy to have access to an eraser that can magically just remove all watercolor from the outside of your picture. I should mention as well that this program lets you choose a background color and a background texture when you create a new image, which you can edit later on. You can see the circle underneath the layers in the top right. There's a circle there with a texture. You can actually go in there and adjust that texture and color. So if you put a pretty strong texture on and later on you decided it was too strong and too distracting from your picture, you can actually change it so it's less prominent. So I found that was a really cool feature. With Artflow, you can change the background color at any time. It's a similar thing. It's a circle at the bottom of the layers, but I don't think, I might have to have another look, but I don't think you can add any kind of texture to it. It's just a color layer. This app also has the ability to do a recording or time lapse of your pictures, which I don't use anymore. Artflow also has that ability, but because I like people to be able to see my tools, I actually use the screen recording function from my tablet rather than the app's inbuilt sort of time lapse feature, as I do want people to be able to see everything I'm doing rather than just you see things, you know, go from nothing to a full picture without knowing what tools I'm using or where my brush strokes are. But if that is something you like doing, if you like recording just the time lapse, then this program does have that ability, as well as the ability to set the quality that it's recorded at, which is really cool. So, you know, if you don't have much space on your device, then you could set it a lower quality, or if you want a really high quality one, you can set it higher. On this second picture, I do explore a lot more of the features, a lot more than I did in the original picture. I do think there is a lot more variety in the brushes in this program than there is in Artflow. There certainly is a lot more tools hidden away. They're just hidden away in those top corner, the top right corner tabs up there. I do find it a little confusing to know which one to click on, as there's a tools and then I guess an editing option is the one next to tools, but I was never sure which one to click on. It does have some filter options, so I thought that was pretty cool, as the Artflow that I use doesn't have a filter option. It has all the blend modes that you normally have on layers, and as I mentioned before, you can lock and do clipping layers and masks and all that kind of stuff, which is really handy. So I did find overall there was more to use in this program than what there is in Artflow, but I didn't have as much control, or my workflow wasn't as fast, and that might just come down to I haven't used this as much. So I might continue to use this, especially to do cute little pictures like this, as I found it super quick and easy to do this kind of thing in, and was definitely lots of fun. Now I'm trying to adjust my line art, as I mentioned before, and I do end up using a filter. So as I mentioned before, there are a bunch of filters in here, and I just use the paintbrush filter just to make the lines look like they're sort of bled in a bit more. And this is pretty much it. I do toy with the idea of putting little eye shines in, but then I decide not to do them. The game doesn't have them, and I thought it looked cuter with just the sort of dark eyes. So would I recommend Infinite Painter? You know what, I think I would. I had a lot of fun with this, and it was what I was looking for. I was looking for a program in which I could do more realistic sort of paintery fun stuff in, rather than my more sort of controlled pictures. So I think I would. It is a paid for program. You can use a trial, but there's a lot of stuff that is locked behind that paywall. Artflow is similar. It does have a lot of stuff that's locked behind a paywall, but I find you can use a lot more features for free in Artflow than what you could in this program. Here you have it. Here's my 2 pictures. Here's my now not so impressive Animal Crossing character, and then the second picture, which I'm very happy with. I think it has a very sort of kids book sort of feel to it, which is what I was going for, so I'm quite happy with it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe if you want to see more, and I also have a Patreon if you'd like to support me. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!